Good morning, students. Welcome back. So today we'll continue our discussion on it. And as regards today's discussion, we'll start with another chapter. That's chapter number 5. And in this chapter, once again, we'll pick up various auditing standards. Again, this chapter is something you can say is associated to the execution stage. Okay, so let me just quickly open the document. Right, so this is what we have, this audit evidence. Yeah. So now audit evidence, as we discussed, so this is about various auditing standards that we need to look at. When we talk about some of the audit procedures which the auditor is required to perform once the planning is done. Okay, so we are talking about substantive testing. We can say substantive audit procedures. So that is what the auditor is now planning to do. Okay, so now in this case, if you look at SA 500, SA 501, they talk about some specific items as well as some specified procedures in respect of audits of various items in the financial statements. But if you look at SA 505, SA 510, SA 530, 550, they are very specific to some areas. And all of these areas are very important, right? So let's quickly get on to our discussion to first of all SA 500 and 501 as to what do they require. And then we'll eventually pick up all of these auditing standards, all external configurations, and some of these one by one. Yeah. Right, so now, just get it. So now, audit evidence. Now, what is this audit evidence? Let's try to understand. See, the audit evidence, you can say, it's the information used by the auditor in arriving at the conclusions on which the auditor's opinion is based. It includes both the information contained in the accounting records underlying the financial statements and any other information. Now, as regards the audit evidence, let's take some examples to discuss that. Now, what could be an audit evidence? Let's suppose when the auditor is checking, say for example, NRV of the inventory. So what is the audit objective? To check whether the NRV is lower or higher as compared to the cost of the inventory. So in this case, auditor will first of all ask the management for the details of the inventory. Means there will be a listing of the inventory wherein the items in terms of quantity, nature, okay, their pricing, means the cost price is available. So you can say the cost is available. And corresponding to that, management must have put down the NRV also. Or in other words, you can say the working file. Yes or no, which the management must have prepared. So can we say that obtaining this working file for them from the management, and of course verification of that, will suffice? Answer is no. So what else would the auditor need? Other than that, because it's about the NRV, yeah, so that's why auditor will also want to check the NRV. If the management has put down the NRV in the working sheet, there must be some basis for calculation of that NRV. Yes or no? Now, what could be the basis? Say the management has considered the latest sales invoices. Okay, latest means at the time when that working was prepared, latest sales invoices were picked up, on the basis of which NRV has also been put down in the working sheet. Now, if let's suppose there are a lot of inventory items, then the auditor will pick up few samples. Correct? Now, for some of those samples, what will the auditor do? Auditor will check these NRVs, the calculations. So when we say the calculation, so that's all about the arithmetical accuracy, okay, formulas, etc., which have been applied, the logic around that, which the management would have considered. And other than that, auditor will also be looking at the sales invoices. Now, this document corresponds to what? This corresponds to the details which the auditor is checking. You can say the underlying document in respect of the details which the auditor is checking, in respect of the accounting record, or in respect of the accounting ledger. What do you call it as? That is nothing but the audit evidence. In fact, in this case, everything which the auditor would have obtained, she would have verified, that is nothing but the audit evidence. Yes or no? Yeah. Now, how does it help the auditor? It helps the auditor in a way that the conclusions which the auditor will have to draw and eventually the opinion which the auditor will have to give, that will be all based on the audit evidence only. Correct? Now, as regards the audit evidence, if you again go back to the objectives of the audit, so the auditor is required to ensure, okay, so somewhere if you go back to the audit objective, what does it require? It says that it's the auditor's responsibility to design and perform audit procedures to obtain sufficient and appropriate auditor's evidence. Okay, so that he is able to draw the reasonable conclusions on the basis of which he will be issuing the audit opinion. Correct? So therefore, the auditor is required to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Now, in this case, if we understand the requirement, so it talks about sufficient and appropriate. So let me just put it down and then we can discuss. Sufficient and appropriate. Okay, so we can say as far as the audit evidence is concerned, so it should be both sufficient and appropriate. Now, can you tell me what is the meaning of sufficient here? What is the meaning of appropriate here? Over to you. Anyone? What is the meaning of sufficient? What is the meaning of appropriate? Quickly. Tell me, what is the meaning of sufficient?
It is related to quantity, sir. And
What is related to quantity?
Quantity means how many evidences we need in that way.
Can you please elaborate this properly with examples? Are you saying that sufficient and appropriate, they mean the quantity?
Yes, quantity, and appropriate is the quality. How
Okay.
best is the audit evidence?
So what do you mean by quantity and quality?
For example,
yes. Please continue. What do you mean by quantity and quality?
Yes, madam. Please continue. I am waiting for your response. Based on that, I will respond at another way. I am holding for your response.
Yeah, you can continue. You can continue. But what is quantity means? How many number of audit means supporting documents that we'll be getting for the transaction as an evidence for that. And quality means how best those are all, and how best those are all supporting the required conclusions. In that way, I can say.
So I would request if you can just give me one example for both quantity as well as quality. I think through that example we'll get more clarity. Yes,
sir. I will explain, sir. Say example.
Yes.
See, the auditor will begin that work. Say based on the trial balance is as the base for any audit. See, trial balance, whatever the balance hitted on the trial balance, we are going to test whether the balance is appropriately sitting in the account or not.
Okay.
Then to confirm that balance, say example, the bank account balance is, say example, 100 crores is there in the books of accounts. See, for that we will get that bank statement from the bank directly. That is a appropriate. We will conclude that that is a appropriate evidence for that.
Okay.
So if there is not matching, then we will scrutinize that. Okay, these are the item is not debited. These are the item is not credited. This is a reason for that differences. That is, we are analyzing that things. Okay, we feel that finally it is sufficient. We are confirming that.
All right.
So like that, for each and every transaction, say example balance sheet item, all the closing balance, we will be go deep dive into that. We are checking, and based on that materiality once again. And based on the performance material, so we will work and we will get the audit evidence.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so let's try to pick up an example for this. I think this is an area wherein the focus of the auditing standard lies, and there's also something which happens to be more of an audit objective, because when it comes to the audit, to the objective, so you get to see all of these points. Sufficiency means quantity. Appropriateness means quality. Now, in the context of audit evidence, what do you mean by quantity and quality? So, if we go back to our example of NRV testing, okay, now let's suppose we have this population. Okay, let's suppose this is the population. There are a lot of inventory items. Correct. Now, from all of these items, or for this population, auditor will have to perform the testing. We also understand that the auditor will do this on a sample basis. Now, on the basis of whatever testing auditor will do, auditor needs to get the comfort that this entire population is correct. So no. Yeah, so that's the objective. Now in this case, let's suppose this population comprises of 1000 items. So the first question arises that out of these 1000 items or the transactions or the line items, how many samples auditor needs to pick up? Means, does he need to verify 100 items? Or should he pick up 300 items? Or should he pick up only 50? Or should he pick up only 25? What will become the basis for that? So one can always say that auditor will get to know on the basis of the sampling technique, on the basis of the sample. Of course, yes. But the point is that the samples which get selected, they have to provide sufficient audit evidence. Means the number of samples which are going to be tested, that should be sufficient. Okay. So if the auditor has picked up 40 samples, he has to ensure that sample is sufficient, which will be based on the audit sampling technique which the auditor will use. If he believes no, 40 is not going to be good enough, he can always consider picking up 80, 150. So that is again dependent on the assessment, or you can say the methodology of the audit. So that's one. Now let's suppose auditor has picked up 150 samples. He is saying, no, I do not want to cut down on this testing. I want to check more samples. So that's why, what did he do? He picked up 150 samples. Let's suppose. Okay. Now the question arises that what will become the basis of selecting these 150? So out of 1000, first point is understood that auditor will pick up 150. Now which 150 will be picked up by the auditor? Now what will become the basis for that? Whether the auditor will pick up this one, this one, this one, this one, or 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 the auditor will say, no, I want to pick up these, okay, sort of blue ones instead of a red. So what will become the basis of picking up these 150? That is what you call as qualitative aspect. So therein, the auditor may want to apply once again the audit sampling technique. He may consider picking up top 20, or he may apply his sampling technique in a way that he is able to capture at least 40% of the population in terms of value. Okay, including all the high value items which is above a certain threshold. Yeah. So a lot of criteria can be considered, but herein the point is not only about checking a certain number of samples, but also ensuring that those number of samples which the auditor pick up. Okay, so that is also qualitative. Once the auditor will do both these things, that is when you say that it's sufficient as well as appropriate. And only when the sufficiency and appropriateness is ensured. Please remember, it's and, it's not or. So auditor has to ensure both. Okay, he has to ensure both sufficiency as well as appropriateness. Without which, what will happen? His audit evidence will not be considered as good enough. Okay, yeah. So that's why whenever it comes to the audit evidence, both of these factors need to be considered by the audit. Okay. Now, in respect of this audit evidence, now what will become the basis for picking up various items? Various items means various areas, and performing different types of audit procedures. See, that will all be an outcome of assessment of various planning activities or the planning which the auditor would have done. Okay, so in our previous sessions, some of the things that we have discussed, which was about planning, so all of those things need to be considered by them, on the basis of which he will be designing his audit procedures, and he will be designing his audit procedures wherein he will have this understanding of the audit evidence which he is required to obtain. Okay, so that's how he needs to go about it. Understood? Now, auditing standard talks about certain areas over which some audit procedures are required to be performed. See, when it comes to the financial statements, we understand financial statements as a whole are required to be audited. And depending on the type of the entity, any of the area in the financial statements may become important. Okay, so idea is to just help you understand that when it comes to the financial statements, there is nothing specific which you can call as important and not so important, except for a couple of areas like revenue management override, which we discussed. They are always the significant risk. But auditing standard focuses upon certain areas. Okay, this is say 501, and provides the guidance in respect of audit procedures to be applied by the auditor in respect of those areas. What are those? Inventory, litigations, segment information. See, if you look at these three areas, generally these areas are considered to be considered to be important in any financial statements, generally. Okay, so that's why some sort of guidance was required in respect of these areas as to what do you do, what do you consider, how do you audit them, right? So now, let's talk about inventory. Now, in respect of inventory, which is generally considered to be an important area in the financial statements. Let me again just go to that file. Inventory is generally considered to be an important area. Now, in respect of inventory, let's discuss as to what are going to be the audit procedures. Okay, so that's one. Further, as regards those audit procedures, what are the assertions which the auditor needs to look at? Or you can say, what are the assertions which the auditor needs to look at, basis which he will design his audit procedures? Yes. So about inventory, let's try to understand as to what is required to be audited what all audit procedures auditor needs to consider. Over to you. Your thoughts. Yes, quickly. Your thoughts on this, on inventory. We will explain the audit procedures which are required to be performed on inventory. Yes, quickly. I think inventory is a very common area, and it's not a very typical area. So I think some of the audit procedures which you need to apply, you can very easily think about those audit procedures. But I am looking at more of the important areas. Yes, over to you.
Sir, for inventory, existence and valuation is important, sir. So we have to check the whether inventories exist or not, and their valuation. For existence, sir, we can count the inventory, or we can attend that, and when inventory is counted. And for existence, sir, we can see further it is a sale after balance sheet that it is sold or not, that confirm the existence, sir.
Okay. What else?
Physical inventory counting should be there.
Okay. So how is that relevant? If you can just also talk about the assertions alongside. Yes, quickly. What about this?
Sir, what is the question? Exact question, please repeat, sir.
Yes. So the question is about the inventory, that when it comes to the audit of inventory.
Physical inventory.
Sorry?
It should be counted at the date other than the financial statement is audited.
Okay, so please go ahead. Please continue. So one, you talked about the physical count. Okay, what else?
If physical counting is not possible, then we can test check and go at the place where inventories are kept
Okay.
at other date. So test check should be easy and they will not manipulate the stock.
Okay, what else?
Sir, when the inventory is material to the financial statement, say example, if the company is doing some services along with the inventory, some the trading activities also, when there is a material, then we will definitely check that we will see the what is the inventory count procedure is adopted by the management.
Okay.
We will observe and entirely we will scrutinize that. And
Right.
we also inspect the inventory and perform the test control also we will do it.
Okay, what else?
And also the final inventory record, whether it is properly that accurately reflected in our actual inventory count result.
Okay, and what else?
So also while we are planning that things, we have to check the nature of inventory and location, the where the inventory is held. Suppose the inventory is held by that company in few or more places, how to check that inventory as well, whether all the inventory are counted by the management, the nature of internal control related to inventory is there or not.
Okay. So I think
And
all of your audit procedures so far,
yes,
they are
sir.
limited to the physical verification only. But do we only perform the physical verification of inventory, or do we have other audit procedures as well?
Other auditor procedure also, the how the inventory recording mechanism. And see, while we are purchasing, how we are recording, while moving from the stores to production, how it is moving,
Okay.
and upon the finished goods also, how it is laying, how all the areas we need to cover it,
See,
sir.
some of these points, which I think most of you have explained, they are about the management processes. Actually, you are talking about the process which the entity will follow. We are looking at the audit procedures. What procedures will the auditor perform in respect of those processes of the management or the accounting of the entity? Yeah, so please be very specific to the audit procedure, not to what the management is doing. We need to understand what the auditor is required to do. Yeah, getting it.
Sir, okay, sir. Now I got, sir, your question clearly.
Yes.
See,
So
then
every
see,
time when we say audit procedure, that means procedures of the audit.
okay, fine, sir. Say example, oh yes, sir. If the financial statement are prepared on 31st March every year, the
Right.
physical count is happened between the prior to that or after that. In between the date, we have to ascertain, we have to bring down if the audit is count is happened beyond the financial statement, then we have to bring down the value. In between, what are the transaction is recorded, we need to scrutinize everything.
Right.
Also, if the financial statement count is prepared done prior to the financial statement, then we have to obtain the audit obtain the audit evidence about whether the changes in inventory between the count date and the financial statement are
Right.
properly recorded or not. That procedure we need to incorporate it.
Okay.
Say example, if some of the non-moving items is there,
Right.
that also we need to whether they recorded and
Yes.
whether that is properly accounted.
Right.
That also we need to check it out, sir.
Correct. So that also you'll check.
Yeah, and reason for significant difference between that physical count and perpetual record, which means the record which are maintaining, whether in the physically available data, the
Right.
reason for that we need also we need to identify and fix it.
Okay. But the
See
point
when
is that if you have to check something, so there again the question remains same. How do you check that? So when you say we need to check this, we need to check that. So how do you check that? That's the point.
see we will do the physical count again.
Okay.
We as an auditor responsibility, we also verify it.
Right.
See, if you are able, see, when the internal audit is done, they counted
Right.
completely. If we are going to use their work, which means then we need to test their independence and the policy and procedure, how they are followed, whether they are free from threat. So, the threat is there or not. Then
Right.
the internal audit competence also we need to test before we
Right.
rely on the internal auditor conclusion.
Right.
That based on that we can conclude, we can rely upon their work. If their
Okay.
internal control is independently is working,
Right.
considering all the policies and procedure and that objectivities of the internal control, nothing is compromised on that. All these criteria are met, we can directly believe, and even though we are using that internal audit conclusion, the sole responsibility is with the statutory auditor alone.
Okay,
That is very clear.
right.
However, it is a statutory auditor responsible to go and verify each and every items.
Correct.
Suppose if the auditor is unable to attend the inventory count,
Yes,
there is also we need to do the some procedure is part is there.
correct. All right. So now let's try to understand some of these audit procedures. Of course, we'll not be picking up each and every audit procedure. Idea is to more get into the approach. See, whenever in the exam, okay, you are asked questions about audit procedures. So please remember the first basis of getting onto any audit procedure will be what? Assertions. Because whenever you do any audit, of course, you will do planning, but even if you go to the planning and if you, let's suppose, talk about inventory, so inventory will have various assertions. Yes or no? Now, what are the assertions?
Sir, inventory, see whether it is a existence is there, whether the rightly is sitting on the account, is there any obligation, is there any completeness, is the valuation done the properly?
Right. So I'm just writing down all of these points that you just, I think, mentioned. Okay. Then you also have one point around the rights and obligations. Correct. Now,
Yes, sir.
I would say the first step for you to consider while designing the audit procedures, of course, you will be doing that in the planning stage itself, will be to break that particular line item into various assertions. Now, why is that important? Because you design your audit procedures based on the assertions only. If you ignore the assertions, you jump onto the audit procedures, then you are not clear what you are trying to check. As an auditor, you need to have absolute clarity in terms of what you are trying to achieve. If you are trying to check something, there has to be some rationale, there has to be some objective for that. Okay. So now, if let's suppose you are concerned about the existence of the inventory, that is when you will look at the procedures to address your concern. To say that I'll check the inventory physically, I'll do the physical count. What does it mean? Will you do that because it is required to be done? Or is there any law which requires you to do that? See, you do that because as an auditor, you have a risk. What is the risk? That inventory may not be physically there. Maybe that in the books they have recorded inventory, but actually it doesn't exist. So that's why, as an auditor, what do you want to do? You want to go and physically check that. Okay, you verify that physically, means you do the stock count or stock take, for which again there is a detailed criteria as to how do you do that. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. One of my senior auditor, he told me that what is mean by accounting? He asked the very first question to me. Accounting is nothing but whatever the record is available in the books of accounts is not a accounting.
Correct.
Whatever physically available is there in the accounting, that is called accounting.
Correct. See, accounting means something which has to be accounted for, not something which has already been accounted for. Because there can always be a difference between these two. Ideally, it should not be there, but as an auditor, you need to ensure that there should not be any difference once you are through with the audit. Correct. So please remember that's the approach for you to follow always. Similarly, if you look at some of the specific areas, for example, litigations, which the audit standard talks about. If you look at segment, There again, you need to understand the assertions. See, one point is very clear, and I'm very confident that if you will be able to think through the assertions, then to get onto the audit procedures or to frame the audit procedures will not be very difficult. Of course, out of 5, you may be able to only think about 4, but that is good enough. Okay, so idea is not that you will just write down each and everything. Idea is to ensure that, something which is required to be there, you are mostly there. Okay, so that's the approach which you need to always consider. Similarly, what you should do is, you should be looking at all of these assertions. The same goes with the other areas as well. Fine. Clear on this? Now,
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
let me just go back to the same document. Now, there are some specific areas, as we discussed, okay, which this chapter talks about. And some of these specific areas are quite critical as far as audit of financial statements is concerned. So let us just discuss about this audit sampling, because I think around the audit sampling we have already sort of discussed briefly, but something more in terms of audit sampling if you have to get. Now, what is audit sampling? Audit sampling simply means the samples which you are going to select. Now, we have also understood that the samples which you are going to select, they have to be selected in a manner that they provide the auditor with sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Means that criteria is something which you have to keep in mind while doing the audits. Now, let's try to understand some of the points around the audits. Audit sampling means auditor is picking a few samples out of the population. Okay. So this sample is also called as sampling unit. So at one place, what do you have? Sample, which has to be selected out of a population. Now the standard requires that the sample should be selected in a manner that there is no bias. Yes or no? Now, what do you mean by that? It means that as an auditor, you need to ensure that each and every sample which you select should be the one which is unbiased, or the approach of audit sampling or sample selection should be the one wherein any sample, okay, let's suppose this is a basket. Okay, there are balls in this basket. So let's suppose if you have to pick up any ball from this basket. So now what do you do? When you pick up the ball, okay, you don't have to keep in mind that this is the one which I am going to pick up. No. Okay, if you just put down your hand, if you pick up the ball, so any of them, let's suppose there are some blue balls. Some of them are blue. Okay, some of them, let's suppose, are yellow. So anyone should be able to get selected. So you will not be looking at that as to, which one will get selected. That's what you call as bias free. So for doing this, you can say the approach which the auditor can follow could be the random selection. Means anything can be picked up. But the whole objective is that the samples that you select, they should also be representative of the entire population. Now, what does it mean? So let's understand that with the help of an example. Okay, let's suppose there's a company. It has a sales of say 200 crores. Yeah. So now, one way is you just ask the client. He says that during the year my sale was 200 crore. Okay, so what do? You'll pick up the sales ledger or say the sales register, okay, which has got all the sales transactions. All of these sales transactions are there. Okay, sum total of that will be 200 crore. Now in this case, you will apply the random selection. So what do? All of these yellow on a random basis you select. Correct? Yeah. So that's one approach. Now there could be another approach which you can apply. What is it? So that before getting onto your audit procedures, you are trying to understand the sales process. Or you can say during your understanding of the sales process, you have got some insights about the sales of the company. Okay. Now what is that? So let's try to understand that. One, that the company is dealing into two products. Okay, so if you look at the sale, it comprises of two products, product A and product B. So company is selling only two products. Fine. Further, the sales include both domestic sales and export sales. Okay. So the sales are domestic as well as export sales. Right? Further, even in respect of domestic sales, basically there are two zones wherein the sales are taking place. So you can say west zone and south zone. Okay. Now, this is how the sales are spread. Now, in this case, when you have this understanding about the sales, now what should be your objective? Each and every type of sales, each and every type of sale transaction should be tested. Should that be your objective or not? When you are just trying to verify the sales, when you are trying to pick up the samples. So what should be your objective? That your sample should pick up some sales transactions of A, some of B, some of domestic, some of export. Even in domestic, some of both the zones are picked up. Yes or no? That's how you will ensure that each and every type of transaction you have verified, each and every type of arrangement you have looked at. Yes or no? So that's what you will try to do as an auditor. Tell me, yes or no?
Yes.
Over to you.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
But tell me one thing, when you applied this approach on the sample selection and these yellow items which you picked up, it may have happened that even though it was bias free, even though it was random selection, Or maybe you use some tools. You may be thinking that, but sir, I use some tools. It may have still happened that all of these samples which got selected, none of them had any transactions related to export sales. Okay. None of the samples covered any sales transactions related to South Zone. None of the samples were selected for product B. Possible or not? Tell me.
Yes, sir. Possibilities are there.
Yeah, they may have got missed out. So even though you are bias free, even though you are applying the tools, everything you have tried to do, still, can we say that the samples you have selected are representative of the entire population? Answer is no.
Yes, sir. There is sampling risk is there.
Yes. So of course, sampling risk will continue to be there. But the approach which you have applied, that approach seems to be faulty. Now, how do you improve that? So let's think about one more way. Let's suppose if you break your population, let's suppose this was the population. Let's suppose if you break your population into some parts, say one of your population is for product A only, one of your population is for product B only. Okay, total of these two is what? 200 crore. Yeah. Then there are some more populations you picked up. You picked up South Zone, you picked up West Zone, and you picked up exports. So all in all, instead of picking up one population, what did you pick up? You picked up 5 populations. And here again, the total is what? 200 crore. Now, in these populations, now what will you do? Now you will consider each population separately, and for each population you will use the sampling criteria. Now in this case, do you think that the problems which we had of not picking up some of the samples in relation to export sales, in relation to product B, in relation to South Zone, will they continue anymore?
No, sir.
No. So that will go away. That will go away. Correct? Yeah. So what did you do? You broke your population into 5 parts. And on those 5 different populations, you applied the sampling. So that's when the samples which you obtain, so they are representative of the entire population as well as all the types which you plan to cover. Now you may be thinking, but sir, will it not happen that now you will be picking up more samples as compared to the earlier one? Necessarily. See, if you end up picking up some more samples, first of all, that should not be a problem. But that can also be restricted by you. Let's suppose earlier when you were picking up 100 samples. Now here again, you can pick up 20 from each, or maybe you can put down the capping of 100 to all of these 5. Maybe you understand that product A's sale is quite significantly lower as compared to B. So that's why you may pick up only say 3 or 4 samples for product A and more for product B. Yes or no? Clear? Clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So now, see, this is how you need to plan your audit and you need to plan your sampling technique. Of course, the standard also talks about different sampling techniques, okay, different types of populations, some of various aspects related to that. Another point which is quite important in the context of audit, and that is about external confirmations. I think Ravi has a query. Before we move on to this point, Ravi, can you please
Sir,
speak
there
up?
is two terms. Sir, there is two terms in sampling. That first one is anomaly and that second is replacement item. I am not able to understand, sir.
Sorry?
There is two terms in audit sampling, sir. First
Yeah, yeah.
is anomaly and second is replacement item. Sir, I am not
Mhm.
able to understand, sir.
Okay. See, anomaly means any sort of problem that you face. Okay, in terms of the samples that you select. Okay, so the anomaly should not be there. So that's like, you can say it should be free from any sort of problems. Yes, that's one. Replacement items, in what context you are reading that, I need to understand. So where are you picking this term from? You can just refer that. I'll have to just look at that particular term. In what context you are talking about replacement? So where do you read that? I need to again see, all of these are very generic terms. So there's no concept behind that as such. Understood?
So it is sampling audit sampling standard, sir. 530.
No. So of course the terms are there, but in terms of the context, if you can just read this complete sentence, or if that is defined anywhere, you can just put down the complete definition, speak up so that I can explain that to you. Yes, Ravi?
Sir, while performing, just it is given, sir.
I
If
think you
the
can also refer to this study material. Just give me a minute.
Sir,
Okay,
it
so
is
I
given
think,
as
right.
sir,
So
it
let
is
me just go to
given
the
as-
study material itself. Okay. And let me just open this document for you. Just a minute. See, when it comes to the Ravi, I think you are there.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now,
Sir,
when it
if
comes,
audit performing audit
no, so
procedure, sir.
forget about it. I'll just discuss that on the basis of what is there over here. I think you should be able to get clarity through that. So you can just ignore the document you are referring to. I think we can discuss this. Okay. Now, performing audit procedures. Auditor shall, so Ravi, I am reading this para. It says, auditor shall perform appropriate audit procedure on each item selected. Which means, let's suppose auditor has selected 10 samples. So now if he has selected 10 samples, he has to apply some procedure on that. Yeah. Maybe he has picked up the sales transactions. So what is the procedure he wants to apply? He wants to verify the sales invoices. Okay. So that's one. Then it says, if the audit procedure is not applicable on the selected item, apply the procedure on a replacement item. See, sometimes auditor may have some objective to be achieved. As we discussed that everything which the auditor will do he will have some objective in mind, including the sampling, including the sample selection. So let's suppose auditor had some objective in his mind, and to achieve that objective, auditor picked up one sample. But the sample which he selected, he found that on that particular sample, his objective will not be achieved. He will not be able to apply his audit procedure on that particular sample. Then what should he do? Should he ignore his audit procedure altogether? Answer is no. He will look at one more sample. So this another sample which he will now select. What do you call it as? It's a replacement of the previous one. So that's what you call as a replacement item. Okay. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, clear? Sure?
Yes, sir. Means objective is not fulfilled, then we have to change.
Ravi, your voice is never clear. You need to speak a bit louder, now, please.
Sir, if objective is not achieved, then we have to move further.
Yeah, if objective is not achieved means if he is not able to apply the audit procedure. What is the objective? Objective is always to apply some audit procedure. If the audit procedure can't be applied on a particular sample, then he'll move on to the next sample. Let me give you one example for this. Okay. Say the auditor wants to check. Now, what is the checking? What is the objective? That invoices were approved by the director or not. Let's suppose within the system, there is a designation director. It's not the board of directors. Let's suppose, or maybe the senior manager. He wanted to check whether the invoices were approved by senior manager or not. Okay, because as per the delegation matrix, invoices should be approved by senior manager or not. Okay, so he wanted to check about the senior manager. So he picked up few invoices, say 5. 4 he found to be okay. In the 5th one, what did he find? It's approved by, let's suppose, say the controller, okay, which is senior to the senior manager. But there's a specific purpose behind that. He wants to check as around the senior manager. Now for this 5th sample, what will he do? He will get on to another sample. He'll say, okay, let me just pick up something more because I want to check about the senior manager. Okay. Or maybe in the 5th sample, he found this fault that it's not approved. So he may want to pick up some more samples. Yeah, both the approaches are there. Correct? Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, moving further. Let's talk about external confirmations. Now, in terms of external confirmations, question arises, what is this process? What do you need to do? Why is this required at all? Can somebody explain what is this process of external confirmation? Why is this required? Over to you.
Sir, in case of debtors, if that
Yes.
amount is correct or not, we have to confirm it from third party, from whoever we have to receive it.
Okay. But why do you need to reach out to a third party?
When that amount is 2-3 years outstanding or some.
Okay, but if the amount is not outstanding for a long period, then you think we are not required to do this.
No, sir. Then also.
Do you mean to say that?
No, sir.
Okay, so then.
Sir, actually, the audit evidence is more reliable when it is obtained from the independent source, that is outside the entity.
Okay,
That is the reason we are seeking the external confirmation
right.
to obtain the audit evidence.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, so let's try to understand. See, external confirmation, I would say, is one of the most important audit procedures. And that's why I would also say that it's not only practically important, it should also be theoretically important from examination perspective. I believe it should be one of the most important areas for you. Now, what is this process? See, this process requires auditors to reach out to the third parties. So every time an auditor is communicating with whom? Management, finance team, management, sales team, or different persons within the organization. So auditor is restricted to the people within the organization. Yes or no? But now auditor is going beyond that. So you must be thinking that, is this some sort of investigation? No. It's part of audit only. And is there any specific reason why this would be performed? Not again. Okay, so it's not about company facing any significant problems. Therein the auditor will design that. No, in the normal course, this is the procedure which the auditor will have to perform. But why is this required? See, if let's suppose auditor is checking sales. So what are the documents he can check? Sales invoices, sales agreement. Yes or no? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you look at the sales invoice, it's a document which is prepared by the company. Yeah. Most of these documents are what? They are prepared by the company. They are
internal documents.
They are all, or you can say most of these documents are internal. Internal means something which the management can prepare. So do you want to rely on those documents? Yes, of course, you will rely. But do you want to rely only on those documents? Answer is no. You want to go beyond that. Why? Because if you can get some external evidence, external means other than internal, then you will be able to rely more on that. For example, in this case, if let's suppose your client is A Limited, it has sold the goods to B Limited, okay, and you got the sales invoice. So you may be thinking, but what if the sale has not actually taken place? It's a fake invoice which has been created by a company. Okay, so now what can you do? If let's suppose by any chance you get to speak to B Limited and B Limited validates that yes, this sale has taken place, I have purchased goods and I have also paid for this, or I am going to pay for that. Then as an auditor, your comfort will increase. You'll say, yeah, that's good. Okay. So what do you call it as? External evidence. So for an auditor, external evidence is more reliable than internal evidence. Does it mean that internal evidence is of no use? We are not saying that. See, in most of the cases, auditor will get the internal evidence only. But wherever he can get the external evidence, he should be obtaining that. And for doing this, what will he do? What will he do? Now, auditor will follow a process. Because B Limited is a client of A Limited, so that's why auditor cannot directly reach out to B. That will be inappropriate, not ethical. So that's why auditor will first of all reach out to A Limited. Seek their approval. That is it okay that I reach out to B Limited and obtain the confirmation? Now you may be thinking, why confirmation? It could be related to anything. It could be related to purchases. It could be related to sales. It could be related to related parties. It could be related to, this sort of legal attorneys. Yeah, so there are various areas for which external confirmations are obtained. Okay. Now, once A Limited confirms that it's fine, you reach out to B Limited. So then auditor will roll out a confirmation letter. So auditor will not go physically meet them. Auditor will not start calling all of these persons. No. Auditor will roll out a confirmation letter. Independently. Independently means this letter will be sent by the auditor from the office of the auditor directly to B Limited. Okay. And will request B Limited to respond to auditor directly and means B Limited should not confirm to A, or B Limited should not pass it on to A saying that please give it to the auditor. No. It has to be a direct communication between auditor and the third party. Okay, so that's the process. Now in this case, in most of the cases, some of these parties may not respond. So what should the auditor do? Follow. How do you follow? Send reminders. Okay. One reminder will be sent, second reminder will be sent, third reminder will be sent. But of course, there has to be a line which the auditor needs to do, because audit is again based on timeline. Okay. So audit is not something which the auditor can just keep doing for years and years, months and months. So if B Limited is not responding, or the debtors are not responding, or any of the parties are not responding, that is when the auditor will reach out to A Limited again. That please request your parties to respond. Now, auditor is not saying that please request your parties to reach out to the management. No. He is requesting that the parties reach out to or revert to auditor. Yeah. So he's just involving the management in ensuring that the parties respond to the auditor. By doing that, he will get some more responses. Even then, at the end, it may happen that despite the reminders from the auditor, follow-ups from the management, there are still some parties which are left who have not responded. What do you do? Now, in that case, what do you do? Let's suppose auditor had selected 20 samples. 20 samples means to 20 parties letters were sent out. 17 have responded. 3 have not responded. Okay. Now, let's talk about 17 who have responded. When the 17 would have responded, the balance which they confirm, in some of the cases that balance may match. If the balance matches, that's good. If the balance doesn't match, then the auditor will ask the management, ask for a reconciliation. Okay, and that reconciliation needs to be audited by the auditor. And once that is done, is through. Problem is more about these parties who have not responded. Now, can the auditor replace these parties? Answer is no. See, there's not much time left now in the audit that he will now select some more samples. No. Anyways, once the sample is selected, it's done, finalized. Because you have to select it all over again. So therefore, what should the auditor do? Therefore, now on these samples, auditor needs to perform alternate audit procedures. Alternate means something else. So he'll check the subsequent receipts in respect of debtors, subsequent payments in respect of creditors. Okay. He'll check in respect of these parties in terms of the transactions which have been executed, means the built up of their balances, which will be through the invoices, various supporting documents. Yeah. So that's how auditor will be able to close testing of these three parties. Clear on this? Yeah. So this is a very common procedure now, which is required to be performed in case of banks, debtors, creditors, investments, related parties, legal attorneys, right? Clear? Yeah. And for all of these, the approach that we discussed is largely the same. Okay? So that's the approach which we need. Clear? Another area which the auditing standard talks about is in respect of audit of opening balances. Can somebody explain what is this audit of opening balances? Over to you. Over to you.
Sir, audit of opening balances, say example.
Right.
See the trial balance, whatever we have to run the opening balance, trial balance of the books of accounts of the entity.
Right.
Then we have to check that audited balance of the previous year. That will be the opening balance for current year.
Okay.
We need to check each and every item whether it is matching or not.
Okay.
That we have to find out. And the missing items, maybe the audited, after auditing, the client might miss it to record the sum of the entries.
Okay.
We
Anyone
have to
else? Yes, yes, please go ahead. Yeah, please continue. Yeah, please continue.
see our opening balance, whether it is misstatement that materially affect the current period financial statement,
Right.
whether the accounting policies consistently applied throughout the period. So example, previous year one policy is implemented, the current period is another policy is implemented, which is not communicated. That is also will have the imbalance
Right.
of the financial statement.
Right.
That also we need to look into it and we need to address it.
Okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts on this?
Suppose if the prayer period is not audited,
Right.
then that is also we have the problem.
Okay.
If the prayer period item the last year is audited by some other auditor,
Right.
not if the audit is the first time you are initiating,
Right.
then there is also we need to do procedures.
Right.
Yes, sir. So the interest of time, so I am not discussing further on this.
No, that's okay. So you can discuss, of course, because we are here for discussion only, and there's nothing which we miss out on if we discuss that, because the objective is revision only. Yes, please go ahead. Please continue. If there's something, if you have to add. All right,
Yes, sir.
So let me just.
Say example. Say there is more permanence in combination will be there. Say example, if the practice in the current unit what we selected, say they started their unit only the say example October or December month. Only
Right.
3 months are left.
Right.
Then that is not audited. Now
Right.
we are taking the audit. The
Okay.
situation will be differ.
Right.
Yeah. Say example, the predecessor auditor, the different audit firm,
Yes.
and say prayer period replaced by the current. See, when we are replaced by the new auditor, then we need to communicate with them, and we need to understand is anything before. This is one of the audit requirement as well. As per that schedule, first schedule. Class 8 talks about we need to check, get the confirmation from the previous auditor also.
Okay. All right. So let's look at this example. Let's suppose financial statements for 23-24 were audited by A&E company. And for 24-25, there's a new auditor in B&E company. Now, financial statements of 23-24 are audited. It's not that it's not audited, they are audited. But still, B&E company, which is a new auditor, over and above the transactions which would have taken place during the year means 24-20, closing balances, which the new auditor will have to audit. New auditor is also required to perform some audit procedures on the opening balances. So the new auditor cannot say that opening balances of 24-25 happen to be the closing balances of 23-24 and therefore are already audited, and that's why I don't need to do anything about it. See, this is the opening balance with which the financial statements begin as far as the reporting year is concerned. Because what is the reporting year? 24-25. Okay, so that's why over and above ensuring that all the closing balances have been picked up as opening balances, means instead of just sticking that opening and closing balances are same, auditor also needs to apply some audit procedures in respect of all of these opening balances as well. So they are very limited. They are not detailed audit procedures because some samples will have to be selected. Okay, some sort of rationalization, some sort of analytical procedures have to be performed to get comfort over these opening balances. So this is what you are required to do in respect of audit of opening balances. So this is what the standard focuses upon. Clear? Clear? Now what we can do is see some of these areas that I think we have picked up. What we can do is now we can just pick up few examples and try to understand some of these areas with the help of those examples only, right? So let me just move on to one question and I will try to discuss this. All right, so if you look at this question, during the audit of the financial statements of Lux Limited for the year ended 31st March 24, CA Suyash, who is the statutory auditor, requested external confirmations for certain trade receivables and payables as part of audit procedures in accordance with SA 505. CA Suyash sent a confirmation request to a debtor for balance of rupees 15,50,000, which was outstanding for more than 6 months, insisting him to respond directly to the auditor, confirming whether they agree or disagree with the balance statement. He also sent a confirmation request to a creditor, wherein the balance was 13,25,000, requesting a response only if there was a disagreement with the stated amount. Now, please understand that there are two different types of communications which the auditor is doing with the external parties. In one case, auditor is asking the other party to respond, which is called as positive balance confirmation. Means other party has to respond for sure. Second is what you call as a negative balance confirmation. Negative means party will respond only if the balance doesn't match. Something which you get to see in case of banks. Okay, I'm sure if you've dealt with a bank, okay, so every time when you receive a statement from a bank, if you look at that statement, okay, generally there's a footnote in the statement that if you have any sort of discrepancy, you need to revert within next 7 days or 15 days. Otherwise, it will be considered as if it is appropriate. Okay, so that's a sort of confirmation. Now, what do you call it as? That's a kind of negative confirmation request. Because only if there is some problem, you will respond. Otherwise, it's assumed to be correct. Okay, so now, looking at it further, CA Suyash received responses from the aforementioned debtor and the creditors in the following manner. Debtor confirmed that as per their records, they owed 14.9 lakhs to Lux Limited instead of 15.5 lakhs. Creditor did not respond to the confirmation request. Identify and explain the type of confirmation request which have been sent by the auditor, the debtor and the creditor. I think I have already answered that for you. Also, discuss the course of action the auditor should take for the discrepancy in the confirmation received from the debtor and non-receipt of the confirmation from the creditor. Over to you. Over to you. Your thoughts on this? Yes, quickly.
Sir, in first case, I will see that what is the reasons of difference, and I will tell the entity to make a reconciliation statement, and I will scrutiny that statement, sir.
Okay.
Sir, on CA sent the confirmation. He is asking agree and disagree. This is
Right.
the request is, see, actually there are two requests are there. One is a positive confirmation request, another one is a negative confirmation request.
Right.
When the auditor is sending that agree or disagree means it's a positive confirmation he is asking. Here
Right.
the customer or the supply debtors or creditors to reply whether it is agreed or disagreed. He
Right.
is expecting the answer.
Right.
See, when there is a negative confirmation means, which means that the auditor is asking when there is a disagreement, that time only they are responsible to reply to the questions. See,
Okay.
here in this case, it is very clearly is stating that it's a positive confirmation request.
Okay.
So, the debtor responded that the confirmation that as per record they owned so and so,
Yes.
it's a confirmed, it is responded.
Right.
But the creditor did not respond to the confirmation request, which means no response.
Right.
Whenever there is a no response comes, we need to check that subsequent transaction in the books,
Right.
whether it is a cash received, any the closing period, the near to that. As an
Yes.
example, that before to the closing, say example 31st March is a closing period, then
Yes.
close near to that, maybe during the April or during the March, is there is
Yes.
any evidence is the payment is received or that the sale is happened or purchase is happened in the creditor did not respond to the confirmation. No, I am talking about only that. We need to understand that is there any subsequent payment we have made
Right.
or is there any the purchase contract it has been executed
Right.
or any goods is delivered
Right.
or is there any in transit material,
Right.
and all these things we need to check in the further procedure, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Any more thoughts on this? Yes, quickly. Yeah. So let's understand now in this case. So I think as regards this positive confirmation request, we have already talked about it. A request that the confirming party respond directly to the auditor, indicating whether the confirming party agrees or disagrees. With an exception, a response that indicates a difference between information requested to be confirmed, okay, which seems to be there in the given example, wherein the auditor has sent a positive confirmation for 15.5 lakhs. However, when the debtor has responded, he is saying that as per my records, this amount which I am required to pay is 14.9. So in this case, what should the auditor do? Auditor has obtained some external evidence on which auditor will request the management to reconcile this. Okay. And of course, once the management does the reconciliation, he will have to look at as to what are the reasons for the reconciliation, if at all there is any problem. If any adjustment entry is required to be passed, he will have to ask the management to do the same. As regards the other letter, which has been sent to the creditor, now he is requesting the creditor to respond only if the creditor disagrees with the balance, which means creditor is not required to respond if the balance is the one with which he agrees. Yes or no? Yeah. So a request that the confirming party respond directly to the auditor only if the confirming party agrees. So what do you call this type of confirmation as? Negative confirmation request. In the given case, auditor has sent negative confirmation request for 13.25 lakhs to a creditor. Non-response by the creditor implies that creditor agrees with the amount. Okay, creditor agrees with the amount. Therefore, in this case, is the auditor required to take any action? No, he will not be required. Why? Because if the creditor has not responded, then of course it's assumed the balance is correct, with which the creditor agrees. So that's why creditor has decided not to respond, and that is what the confirmation also wanted. Clear on this? Yeah. Everyone
Yes,
clear?
sir.
Any
Yes, sir. Clear.
questions on
Clear.
this?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Right. Anyone else? Any more questions so far?
Here, suppose, continue, sir.
Yes.
Sir, here suppose if a creator is benefiting from not disclosing the information, means not sending the information, and there is
Right.
difference, then
Right.
what should I?
No, but why will the creditor benefit by not sending the confirmation? Can you please explain? Maybe you can just bring out that situation. Why would the creditor
Then
choose not to respond?
okay. Means company have showing more balance and creators have showing less balance in their records. There may be case.
No, if let's suppose company is showing 100.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Creditor, as per the creditor's records, it's 80. Okay, so that's your
Yes,
point.
sir. Yes,
So you're
sir.
saying that when the company is saying that I have to pay you 100, so creditor is feeling happy, okay, I'll get 100. Yes or no? So that's why they have decided not to respond, and they have sort of, accepted that, which is fine. But in this case, please understand that confirmation is not the only procedure which the auditor would have done. He would have also looked at the transactions. He would have also looked at a lot of other audit procedures, basis which he would have reached this balance. Yes or no? Yeah. As a company also, why would a company show as a something more payable to a party? There has to be some reasons behind it. Yeah, because if the company would have booked a liability for 100, there must be some purchase invoices for the same. Yeah. Clear on this? Yeah. So it's not limited to only the confirmation procedure. There are various other things which the auditor would have looked at. See, the confirmation procedure is all about one assertion. Okay, and what is that assertion? Completeness. But there are various other assertions related to the creditors which the auditor would have looked at, basis which he would have, got on to this balance of 100. So if the auditor is finding no problems over there and the creditor decided not to respond, then it's okay, no problem. Okay, but generally what you do is the auditors end up sending positive confirmation request, not the negative one. Okay, that is what you generally see. Okay. Then I can see one query from Ravi. Okay, Ravi is asking, is exception is not match? Ravi, I'm not clear on your query. I think you need to explain this.
Means, sir, exception is equal to not match. Means exception is the information which is difference. I want to ask. That is the case, sir.
Ravi,
If there is
again, I'm
a
not clear.
difference,
Your
if
voice
there
is, as I told you, is not clear. You need to be a bit louder, please.
sir, if there is difference between records between parties, then that is exception. That is I want to know, sir. That is called exception.
Yeah, that's correct. So exception
Yes,
means you reach out to the party, but they respond with a different balance. And please understand, exception is not a concern always, because there can always be reasons for that. And that's why the auditor will request the management to prepare a reconciliation. And that reconciliation will then be audited. If the reconciliation is fine, it's okay. So generally you'll see these exceptions. Exceptions means generally the parties will respond and they will respond with a different balance. Maybe some of the debit notes, credit notes, the other party may not have considered. So there are a lot of reasons behind
And sir,
that. Okay.
yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
if there is doubt in integrity in the other party, sir, then what should I do, sir?
What is the meaning of that?
Suppose other parties management is there is problem in integrity. There is a red in suppose Pamela information. There is red of income tax. या फिर another question is provided in question. There is a doubt in integrity. Then what should I do in the process
So
of?
what is the meaning of doubt in integrity? So what do you mean by that? I couldn't understand.
Means sir, there is a search and there is search and survey of income tax. There may be case,
So
sir.
let it remain. So how does it matter to us? As an auditor, we are just asking the other party to confirm the balance. If they confirm, we are okay. So we are not there to audit the other party. We are not the auditors of all the other parties. We are just simply requesting the other party that this is the balance my party is showing in their books. You please confirm. If they confirm, we are good about this.
Means reliability cannot be challenged, sir.
But why do you need to get on to their reliability? That is not your audit client. Your audit client is A, not B. So why do you want to get onto the books, integrity, all of these factors for the other party? That is not your objective. Your objective is very simple, that integrity, reliability of your client you need to validate. And how do you do that? By reaching out to the other party. Now you will not say that for the other party I'll do the same thing. So you will not become the auditor of another party. Huh? So this way you will end up becoming the auditor of 100 parties. Huh? Okay, that is
sir.
not your audit objective. Clear?
Focus is on my party only, sir.
Sorry?
Focus is on my party integrity, sir, only, sir.
Yes, yes, of course. Because you are there for audit of financial statements of your audit client. For doing that, you are not sort of taking assistance in a way from other parties. That's it.
Okay.
Sir, actually, whether our client is, whether we have external confirmation, whether it's a positive confirmation or negative confirmation. See, when we will send the negative confirmation based on that assessed risk of material misstatement, when there is a low, then we have to consider all these things. We are going only focusing on our client matter.
Correct.
How they are responding by the external party. Based on that, if there is no response, then we are going to do the further audit procedure.
Correct.
That's all. Right, sir?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely correct. See, first of all, everything which you select to perform, what do you call it as audit procedure? Okay. Now, in terms of all of these audit procedures that you select to perform, what has to be there at the back end? Your audit planning. So all of these audit procedures, they are nothing but the outcome of your audit planning only. Yes or no? So that's the thing which you always need to keep in mind, that all of these things are driven by your audit planning. And audit planning means all of those factors that we have considered, risk assessment, all of those things. Okay. Right?
Right, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right. So then I think we can take a break now. And let's continue after the break. Huh? All right. Ashok, let's take a break now.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks. So if you look at this question, auditors of BBNS Limited accepted the gratuity liability valuation based on the certificate issued by the qualified actuary. However, auditor noticed that the retirement age adopted by the company is 65 years. I think this 65 years is considered in the certificate as against the existing retirement age of 60 years. Company is considering a proposal to increase the retirement age to 65 years. Now, in this case, what will you do as an auditor? Over to you. So, what are going to be your considerations as an auditor in this case? Yes, quickly. Quickly.
Here, sir, data used by actuary is not accurate, sir. Means
Okay.
company has not enforced the age of 65 year or retirement, but
Right.
he's taken a 65 year. So there is a doubt in accuracy of data, sir.
Okay. So, as an auditor, what do you do?
Sir, I will say change the age of reduce the age of 65 to 60 so that provision can be reduced.
Okay. So, let's look at this. See, over here, we have an expert involved, correct? Expert is that of the management because actuary is a third party and actuarial valuation is more of an expert job. So the management is involved in actuary. As an auditor, whenever any expert of the management is involved, what do you need to do? First of all, you need to find out whether that expert is competent or not. So no, that's going to be your first step. So does he have the skill set? Yeah. Then obtain an understanding of what he has done, what he is required to do, his scope. Evaluate the appropriateness of the work of that expert. Because you can't just simply say that expert has done anything, as an auditor will rely on that. You can't do that. Okay. So you can't just simply rely on that. You need to perform your audit procedures on that. So that's what you are required to do as an auditor. So in this case, here again, the management has involved an auditor. Correct? So if the management has involved an auditor, so the auditor needs to look at all of those things. Now, what is that? Relevance and reasonableness of the findings of that expert, conclusions of that expert, their consistency with any other audit attempts which the auditor would have obtained. Yes or no? Yeah? Correct? If the expert's work involves use of significant assumptions and methods, which will generally be there, auditor needs to evaluate those assumptions as well. If that expert's work involves significant use of source data, so the relevance, completeness, accuracy of that source data is also required to be evaluated. In the given case, what do you have? BBNS accepted the gratuity liability valuation based on the certificate issued by the expert, who is a qualified actuary. Here, the basis for computation and the valuation is taken as 65 years, which is not correct. Why? Because the company is considering proposal to increase the retirement age. Therefore, assumptions and the methods which are used by the management's expert are not appropriate. Hence, the auditor needs to evaluate that. Okay, so needs to understand as to what is going to be the impact of that. Okay, right? Clear on this? Yeah, everyone clear? Any sort of reporting implications which is there, that is what the auditor needs to look at. Okay. All right. Next. CA Prabjot. Just a minute.
Sir,
Just a minute. I'll just share the document. Yeah. CA Prabjot has planned to observe the physical count of inventories at the plant of a company located in the remote area in the state of Uttarakhand as a part of statutory audit exercise, few days before the completion of financial year 23-24. He already informed his intention to the management that he is planning to visit the plant site on 29th of March. He plans to inspect the inventories, observe the counting process, perform the test counts, among other matters. The management has made all the necessary arrangements to facilitate the above exercise by the statutory order. However, an agitation in Himalayan hills started on 28th of March for the announcement of a strict law regarding the conversion of agricultural land for commercial use. Many civil society groups are participating in the agitation. NH7 leading to the plant site is blocked. So you can say the way is blocked. Plant is not accessible through any other mode. The blockade is lifted 1 month after the state government announced the formation of a committee to look into the demands of the protesters. Does the above case highlight a situation of impracticability of attendance in relation to the physical verification of the inventory as per the requirements of auditing standard SA 501? Over to you. Over to you.
Sir, impracticability of attendance, but in the
Right.
case is very clear. See, SA 501, that audit evidence, specific consideration of selected items.
Right.
Here the case of the inventory items.
Right.
When there is a physical inventory counting due to unavoidable situation like this,
Yes.
the auditor shall make the alternate day
Okay.
to perform the audit procedure
Okay.
and conclude it. It is the duty of the auditor count the physical inventory count
Right.
after the situation is lifted.
Okay.
He has to do the audit procedure and confirm the inventory for the particular financial statement.
But let's suppose after this, sort of situation is improved. So it's
Yes.
already 1 month. So you are effectively on 30th of April.
Yes.
So do you think if the physical verification is performed on 30th of April,
Yeah,
that will be of
definitely.
any use?
Yeah, definitely they can do after even 1 month also he can do that audit and physical counting. See the adjustment between the financial statement to that period are
Right.
already counted. What is the difference transaction in between? Considering those facts, definitely they have to consider it. They have to do it.
No,
No.
but tell me one thing, that if let's suppose as an auditor,
Yes.
you perform the physical verification on 30th of April.
Okay.
So when you perform the physical verification, so what is your
Okay.
objective? You want to check the existence of inventory as
Right.
at the year end. Now your year end is gone. You are checking the existence of inventory on 30th of April. So how does it help your cause? Because your assertion related to assertion, okay, which is about the existence. How do you achieve that objective? So that's my point. Okay, I'm just
See.
adding to this question.
Okay, sir. See, here that the whatever the balances available the 31st March, based on that is a right and obligation is there or not. From there we have to check on 30th April between those transactions, whatever the input, what is the output, all these things, whether the material is as per the record is available or not, or as per the physical it is recorded or not.
Right.
We have to check, then only we will be very sure about the particular inventory item is there or not.
Right.
So it is important to verify it. The physical
Okay.
count at any cost has to be carried out even after 1 month or 2 months. It's not a matter. We have to complete that procedure.
Okay. Anyone else who would like to add to this?
Sir, we have to do the alternative audit procedure to get the sufficient appropriate audit evidence for this.
Okay, so very good. So what are going to be those alternate audit procedures?
Sir, I think nowadays drawn is there, and
Okay.
from mobile or something, and so from computer and all, we can see this. And appoint alternate auditor there, and he can means who are not relatives and all, and he can do the physical counting there. He can do that also.
Yes,
So
sir.
in that case, you are trying to say that impracticability of attendance, okay, or this situation is not leading to that, is it?
Sir, her point is valid on the part. When we are unable to attend, we can ask some other auditor to attend the physical count from that location. We can ask them to perform and ask them to provide the report for us.
Right.
That point is very much relevant, sir.
Correct. So you're saying there are ways to manage this situation, which this auditor should have planned, instead of saying that this has become impracticable, is it?
Yes, sir. Sir, even though it is not impracticable on those days, but the auditor definitely choose the alternative date. Once the situation is come to normal, they can do the
Yes.
audit.
All right. Anyone else would like to add something to this? Quickly? No? So let's get on to the solution. See the given situation. Yes.
सर इसमें क्या करेंगे कि जैसे अप्रैल महीने की जो भी सेल्स परचेज हुई है, जो क्लोजिंग स्टॉक था मार्च का, तो बैकवर्ड कैलकुलेशन कर लेंगे.
राइट.
तो उससे 31 मार्च में जो सिचुएशन थी स्टॉक की, उस पे आ जाएंगे अपन. तो ऐसा ऑडिट प्रोसीजर अपना सकते हैं.
राइट. So you're saying anyways this physical verification has to be done, and then you get on to the rollback audit procedures, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, I think one of the ways you're saying this sort of situation can be managed. All right, so let's look at this. See, the given situation doesn't highlight impracticability of attendance. It only shows that the auditor is unable to attend the physical verification due to the problems. This auditing standard states if the auditor is unable to attend the physical verification, auditor shall make or observe some physical counts, maybe on an alternative date, which could be 30th April. Okay. Auditor should attend physical inventory count after the blockade is lifted and perform the alternate audit procedures. Perform the audit procedures on intervening transactions, which is all about rollback. So in this case, what should he do? Of course, like you mentioned, okay, some of these verifications, etc., can also be done through video, online processes are involved, but the physical verification has to be done. So instead of doing this, let's suppose on 31st March, if he's doing on 30th April, now he has got the comfort on the existence on 30th April, but he has to move to 31st March. So that's why he needs to do this rollback exercise. Okay, so this rollback has to be done. Who will do this rollback? Management will do this. Auditor will have to verify that starting from, let's suppose the inventory was 100. If you roll back, so let's suppose you get 80. Okay, so if you get the comfort on 100, then you get the comfort on 80. Why? Because 80, 100 you have physically verified, and for this 80 you will check the procedures for the difference between 80 and 100. Okay. Next. On reviewing the legal expenses account of Z Limited, CA Sunita, who is the auditor of the company, finds that legal fees amounting to rupees 10 lakhs was paid to B. George, a reputed lawyer, during the financial year 23-24. On inquiry with the management regarding the purpose of such expenditure, evasive reply was received from the management stating that a lot of work is performed by the said lawyer on behalf of the company. However, no specific details were provided. She finds it proper to correspond directly with the lawyer. Okay. She obtains the address, email ID of the lawyer from his professional services bill, shoots off an inquiry letter asking for the nature and the status of litigation claims against the company on her letterhead, means letterhead of the auditor. Can we say that the approach of CA Sunita is correct? That's what. Irrespective of the merits of the approach followed by her, what is she trying to achieve by corresponding with the lawyer of the company? So there are two questions you need to answer. One, that the approach which she has followed. Okay, so this is the approach. Do you agree with the approach? And second is, forget about the approach, whether the approach is correct or incorrect. What is the objective which she is trying to achieve? Yes, over to you. Over to you.
Sir, her approach communicating to the external lawyer is not appropriate actually. First, whenever we are conducting with the external party, first we need to communicate with those charged with counsel or management. What is the intention, our intention to communicate directly to them?
Right.
See, unless otherwise we get concurrence from the management, we cannot approach the external party directly.
Right.
that her approach is totally, I would say it's a wrong or mistake.
Okay, right. But what's the intent? In this case, if you look at the intent of this auditor, what is she trying to achieve? Okay, so her approach may be wrong, but what's the purpose? Can you please highlight that purpose as well?
Sir,
See,
her purpose is
so if it is for a risk of material misstatement,
About what?
that could be the purpose. That could be the purpose of her intention. Is anything to be disclosed under the contingent liability, or definitely when we are approaching to the lawyer, there will be a case of pending with due to what is the status, what is the litigation situation, whether the company is the situation to win or lose the case. All these things
Right.
she might be is to identify the material risk of material misstatement only. This may be her intention to ask to the lawyer
Okay,
whether they have to be disclosed in the notes to account or whether there is any impact in the financial statement. Yeah, that could be the reason for approaching to the lawyer, I believe.
okay. Anyone else? Any more thoughts on this?
Sir, can I add?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, सर इसमें लीगल फीस 10 लाख रुपीस की है, तो ये भी इशू हो सकता है कि कंपनी का गोइंग कंसर्न तो प्रॉब्लम में नहीं है, क्योंकि लॉयर को कंपनी ने हायर किया है. अगर फ्यूचर में अगर गोइंग कंसर्न इफेक्ट होता है तो ये भी एक सिचुएशन हो सकता है कि लॉयर जो है मतलब सीए जो है वो डायरेक्टली लॉयर से कम्युनिकेट कर रहा है, कि अगर वो टीसीडब्ल्यूजी इन्फॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड करने से मना कर रहा है इसके रिगार्डिंग, तो ये थर्ड पार्टी ले सकता है इन्फॉर्मेशन कंफर्मेशन मतलब.
Okay.
जैसे
And do you agree with the approach? Do you think the approach is right?
जैसे सर सत्यम के केस में बैंक से जो कंफर्मेशन लिया था ऑडिटर ने डायरेक्टली नहीं लिया था, तभी तो इतनी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट हुई थी. अगर वो ऑडिटर उस समय ले लेता बैंक से कंफर्मेशन, तो अपने खुद के लेटर हेड पे तो होता ही नहीं प्रॉब्लम. तो सर इस केस में भी अप्लाई कर सकते हैं सिचुएशन.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, sir, approach is not proper because directly auditor can't inquire this means nature and status of litigation and all. They have to confirm it from the management and those charged with governance. Directly they can't send the letter to them.
Okay.
And also, in fact, we can discuss with the management. We can ask them to prepare the letter for us. They based on that we can send the letter to them to get the concurrence from the lawyer.
Yes, sir. Documentary evidence is there for this, no litigation. They have to take that. Otherwise, give the report. We can mention it in a report also.
Correct. So see, as far as the approach is concerned, so we have already talked about it. It's about rolling out a confirmation request to the third party. So the intent seems to be very clear that the auditor wants to get the insights as around the matter which has been going on. Okay, because the matter may not have been disclosed by the management to the auditor. Okay, and which could also have some financial implications. So that's the purpose. That's why she is reaching out to the auditor. So is that purpose appropriate? Answer is completely yes. So that's what the auditor should always do, because the auditor anyways hasn't got the appropriate replies, or you can say sufficient evidence. Even if that is received, auditor will always want to validate that through external source. So the purpose, as far as the objective of the audit is concerned, is completely in line, which this auditor has done. The only problem lies in the approach. Why? Because as an auditor, it's important to have the concurrence of the management. And how do you get the concurrence? You reach out to the management, you confirm, you sort of take confirmation from the management that this is what I plan to do. As the management, they can't stop you. Why? Because that's an audit procedure. So they can't stop you. So if they want to stop you, they have to have some valid reasons for doing that. Otherwise, the management will not stop you. And to further validate that, what do? You ask the management to prepare the confirmation letter on the letterhead of the management, which will be sent by the auditor. Why? Because the other party will only respond to the auditor when the management will sort of intervene, because that party has got nothing to do with the auditor. That is a party of the management. So that's why somewhere the management has to get involved, and that is through the letterhead, wherein the management will request, okay, to send this confirmation directly to the auditor, which will eventually be sent by the auditor directly to the third party, which doesn't seem to have happened in this case. So that's why the approach seems to be erroneous, but the purpose seems to be in line with what is required on the part of any auditor. Okay, so if you look at the requirements of auditing standard, auditors shall seek direct communication with the entity's external legal counsel. Auditor shall do so through a letter of inquiry prepared by the management, sent by the auditor. Now, this part is important. This has to be sent independently by the auditor, requesting the legal counsel to communicate directly with the auditor. Therefore, our approach in communicating with the lawyer is not correct. She needs to make the management aware of her intention to communicate directly with the lawyer. Letter of inquiry has to be prepared by the management, sent by the auditor. Her purpose in corresponding with the lawyer is to identify any litigation, any claims. Okay. It is due to the reason that litigations and claims involving the entity may have a material financial impact on the financial statements. And therefore, either they may be required to be recorded, means accounted for, or at least a disclosure should be given. Okay. Next. During the audit of this company TS Limited, CA Tanmay, I think Ravi has a query. Yes, Ravi?
Sir, while communicating with the legal counsel, her
Yes, Ravi?
sir, with communication with the legal counsel.
Ravi, please speak up.
Sir, in the question, her letterhead is used. That is wrong, sir.
Yes, that is wrong.
Okay,
She can't use her letterhead. She should be using letterhead of the management. That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, moving on to the next one. During the audit of TS Limited, CA Tanmay finds that substantial inventories of the company consisting of mast lighting poles remain with Super Industries for certain finishing works. Okay, so it's all about inventories lying with third parties, appeared to be the case. Huh? While planning the audit procedures, the CA Tanmay had planned about seeking confirmation from the third party Super Industries regarding existence and condition of such mast lighting poles belonging to TS Limited, lying with Super Industries as on 31st March 24. Okay. However, premises of Super Industries, if you look at it, that was raided by the DGA officials in connection with some sort of scam. Okay. Proprietor of the firm, the Super Industries, this got arrested, I think, during the year, and then was given a bail in the month of March 24. because that is before the end of the year. Details of the proprietor and his firm were flashed prominently in local newspapers of the city where the company is also located. C.A. Tanmay belongs to the same place. Discuss how he should proceed in the above matter as the auditors of TS Limited. Over to you. So, what are going to be your considerations as an auditor in the given case? Yes, quickly. Quickly, over to you. What are going to be your thoughts as an auditor? Anyone?
Sir, here is the client is TS Limited.
Right.
The super industries is that vendor
You can say a vendor for which
vendor.
some job work is required to be performed.
Yeah. Maybe job work. That is a vendor of that. Super industries
Yes.
is a vendor of TS Limited.
So let me just put it down. So this is the client.
Okay.
This is the auditor.
Okay.
Right.
Yes,
This
sir.
you can say is the
Auditor.
third party. No, this is the third party or the
Okay,
job.
third party. Yes, job work. Right.
Okay. Yes. You can go ahead now.
Yeah. Now that third party places only raised by the GI official, that is a fake of billing scam.
Right.
Now it's a question that details are appropriate. Okay, Tanya also belong in the same place. Discuss how should the proceed the above matter as an auditor.
Right.
Now, what is her position is now while planning the audit procedure.
Right.
Okay, he had planned about seeking confirmation from the suppliers.
Right.
Okay, on that particular aspect only we need to answer it.
Right.
Okay. Now, see, we have to worry about our client only, not by the other client. Okay.
Obviously.
See, we have to send the confirmation, negative confirmation or positive confirmation based on our internal audit procedure or risk of material misstatement.
Correct.
If you know all these things, always the positive confirmation is very good. And also, when our stock is lying with the other person,
Correct.
that person, the internal control, whether it is good or bad, and the integrity of that client, and although to be checked out, because our inventory is sitting there. What is the mechanism of inventory count is followed? What frequency?
Correct.
And also our client is sending the material to them. What is the procedure followed in it?
Right.
When they're sending the delivery note, the receipt acknowledgement, whether they received or not.
Right.
Whenever with the receipt also, whether we really recorded or not, the transaction in between the cash involvement, whether really received or not received.
Right.
We have to consider all the aspect. We have to first of inquiry about the business environment and the situation.
Correct.
Just like that, because of that DGI, that official came and it is billing scam, all these things, we should not jump into the conclusion they may be fraud. But however, we need to put in place the right approach, the substantive audit procedure, all these things, whether the internal control is there or not, what is the process, policy and the process involved relating to the transaction between that TS company to the super industries.
Right.
Based on that only we should arrive the conclusion.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, here inventory lies with third party, so auditor can get confirmation from the third party, but actually third party is getting involved in some some investigation by GST department. So
Correct.
his integrity is doubtful. So since auditor auditor is belong to the same place, she can visit direct to third party office or third party client and can visit and count and investigate, can inspect the stock and can get the confirmation of the whether it is exist or not. So my views are this.
So you're saying auditor will go physically verify?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else?
नहीं सर, इसके अंदर जैसे फेक बिलिंग सिस्टम को ही बस्ट किया है ना डीजी ऑफिसर ने,
Right.
बट वो जरूरी थोड़ा है कि जो टीएस लिमिटेड उसके स्टॉक से रिलेटेड ही हो.
Sorry, you're not audible.
सर ये जरूरी थोड़ा ना होगा कि सर जो टीएस लिमिटेड का स्टॉक जो रखा हुआ है सुपर इंडस्ट्रीज के पास, उसी स्टॉक पे ही ये रेट डली हो. पहले ये चेक करना होगा ना कि जो जिस पे भी बिलिंग सिस्टम इन्वॉल्व है वो क्या क्लाइंट का स्टॉक है भी या नहीं.
Yes. Which is fine, but what do you do as an auditor? That's the point. Huh? So as an auditor, what do you do?
कंफर्मेशन ले लेंगे कि हमारा इस पे कोई प्रॉब्लम हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है, जो भी बिलिंग.
Okay. So you're saying the procedure which he plans to follow. So he has anyways planned the same thing. Huh? So if you look at the question, he has planned to obtain confirmation. So you're saying you should go ahead with that, is it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so let's look at this. Auditor shall obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to anything he'll audit, including the inventory, because in this case, what is the objective? Existence of inventory needs to be verified. Okay, and how do you do that? Request the confirmation from the third party, or you go there, physically perform that. Yeah. Further, if you look at the auditing standard, it says where the information is obtained that raises doubt about the integrity, objectivity of the third party. So what should the auditor do? Auditor needs to perform other procedures instead of obtaining the confirmation. Because if the integrity is a question mark, okay, then you can't limit yourself to only the confirmation. Now, what are going to be the other procedures? Auditor can himself physically verify. Yes or no? He can engage a third party who will go there. In the given case, integrity of the third party is a question mark. Right? Keeping
Sir, it's a questionable now.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's a question mark. Correct? So of course,
yes, sir.
Auditor can obtain the confirmation. He should obtain the confirmation. Because anyways, third party has to confirm. He should also considering attending that physical verification himself. Like he'll do for the inventory lying at the premises of the management, he can always ask the management that I want to go there and verify that. And the management will have to get that arranged. Okay? Yeah. He can also inspect the record of goods sent, goods received. So when there's a flow, so some of the goods will go for job work, they will come back. Okay, so the documentation around that, he will also be looking at that. In addition to this, okay, clear on this? So that's how we'll get more comfort on this.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
All right, so let's look at the next one. As the auditor of Groom Limited, you have sent positive confirmation requests to 30 creditors of the company in March. All the creditors in the informal sector are small concerns. They are small vendors. You selected to send positive confirmation requests to all the other parties at their business addresses stated on the respective bills after discussing the matter with the CFO of the company. CFO is cooperative, doesn't raise any hassles. Okay, so sort of you can say cooperation is there on the part of the management. The responses to the confirmation requests are received within a week's time. Your article assistant, means one of your team member, informs that out of 30 creditors, GST registrations of 25 of those creditors who have confirmed have been cancelled during the financial year 23-24 itself by collating the information from the GST board. Now, he further informs you there are no fresh registrations. Okay, let's suppose there's a vendor, his registration got cancelled. So then the same vendor didn't get the fresh registration. Okay. On that particular pan, you can always go check that on the GST portal. Now in this case, what do you do? Tell me. As far as your audit procedure is concerned, you have sought the confirmation. Tell me, what do you do? What else you need to do other than obtaining the confirmation? Tell me, quickly.
Check
Sir,
that why the GST registration of this 25 parties have been cancelled, whether due to the invalid returns or the fake ITC claims.
Anyone else?
I think since that both parties are not responded, also there is a GST registration about 25 creditor has been cancelled.
Right.
I would see there is some fraud involved in it because there might be some due to that false outstanding or
Right.
it's false purchase. This is a, I feel that management overriding control. I feel that is exists in the financial statement is concerned, I believe.
Okay, but as an auditor, what do you do? Anyone else? No? So let's look at this. Auditor determines that a response to confirmation request, if that is not reliable, auditor shall evaluate the implications on the assessment of relevant risk of material misstatement, including the risk of fraud, which seems to be there in the given case. Clearly, for those 25 vendors, their businesses are shut. However, when the auditor sent the confirmation, they are responding. Okay? So this entire process becomes a question mark. Entire process means when the auditor is sending the confirmation, other party is responding. When the other party has shut the business, why would the other party respond? And that too within a week's time. Yes or no? Yeah. So it raises the questions on the reliability of the responses. In this case, it may have happened that the response has not come from the originally intended confirmed. So maybe the addresses at which the confirmation has been sent, management knew that they will reach those addresses. Okay. And that's why the management was involved in getting the responses sent on behalf of the vendors. Right? So in this case, as an auditor, what do you do? Of course, this entire process has failed in a way because that is of no use. That is not reliable anymore. So that's why you will have to get on to the details of those transactions, those invoices, work done with those parties. Yeah, all of those things you are required to look at. Further, you also need to understand about the existence of those parties. Yeah, so you may plan to call those parties. You may want to physically verify at some of those locations to verify whether they actually exist or not. And then get on the discussions with the management as to what has happened in the given case. Yeah, because it's more of fraud risk. This seems to be there. So that's why auditor will have to plan some more audit procedures other than confirmation. Because confirmation is done, but beyond that, auditor will have to get on to it. Okay. CA M. Hussain is appointed as auditor of a firm for the year 23-24 on 31st July 23. Accounts of the firm were audited in the year 23-23. The firm had material inventories reflected in its financial statements, even as on close of 31st March 24. He is performing audit procedures, including attending the physical verification count on 31st March 24. However, there is a lingering doubt in his mind regarding the opening inventories. Why? Because 22-23 was audited by another firm, and now the CA is required to audit 23-24. Does there exist any responsibility on his part in such a situation? Over to you. Tell me.
Sir, my voice is clear, sir?
Now it is clear, yes.
ये सर 22-23 का ये जो दे रखा है अनऑडिटेड है कि ऑडिटेड है? यहाँ अनऑडिटेड लिखा हुआ है ऊपर क्वेश्चन में.
Your voice is not clear now.
Now it's clear, sir?
Yes.
सर ये 22-23 का जो अकाउंट्स है ऑडिटेड है कि अनऑडिटेड है?
No, it's given, huh? So it's given.
सर इट इज अनऑडिटेड लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे.
Right. So it's unaudited. Correct. So these were unaudited. But the auditor is also new. Okay, so the auditor is there for 23-24. So he is going to audit 23-24.
Sir, when there is a unaudited, that is auditor also knew that see, our main objective, the auditor opening balance, he has to get the sufficient appropriate evidence.
Right.
And all the opening balance are reflected correctly.
Right.
Is there any material misstatement is there or not in the current period financial statement? He had to look into that. That is a main objectives or opening balance checking.
Right.
But in this case, it's not audited.
Right.
But to ensure that the current opening balance, whatever available in the as per the record,
Right.
first he has to conduct that the physical inventory.
Right.
Now, and he can do the rollback of the reconciliation, or we can ask the management to the reconciliation of the old items.
Right.
And based on that, we can do the confirmation. Also, we can do the valuation of the opening balances, the procedure, the assertional level. The assertional level is very important. Whether that rights and obligation is there and the valuation is done properly, the existence is there or not. All the items we have to value it and in order to locate the right opening inventories.
Okay. So let's look at this. See, if you look at the requirements of the auditing standard, which is in respect of initial audit engagements. Okay, so if you remember, we talked about audit of opening balances. So that's nothing but the initial audit engagement. Means when you are auditing the entity for the first time. One of the objective of the auditor with respect to opening balances. Now, please remember, opening balances is to what? Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence whether opening balances are correct or not. For which auditor will also have to apply some audit procedures on those opening balances. They will not presume they are audited. In the case of inventories, current period's audit procedures on the closing inventory provide little audit evidence regarding inventory on hand at the beginning of the period. Therefore, additional audit procedures may be necessary. Yeah. Now, what could that be? Observing a current physical inventory count, reconciling that to the opening balance, forming audit procedures on the valuation of opening inventory, performing audit procedures on gross profit cutoff. Means as around the opening balance, you will have to audit. See, physical verification is something you can't do because you can't go back in time. So you can always do rollback, but at times, considering the nature of operations, the number of transactions, this rollback may not be an easy exercise when it comes to 1 year. Okay, rollback for a period of 1 month, 2 months can still be understood. But for 1 year, it may be very, very complicated. Huh? So that's why various other procedures, means the alternate procedures, auditor will have to plan now. Okay.
Sir, could you please explain that the gross profit and cutoff procedure relating to this, sir?
See, the cutoff procedure about the inventory is what? That as at the year end. So, in terms of cutoff, what do you do? See, inventory is what? Inventory is a built up of your purchases. So, in terms of cutoff, what is your objective? This is 31st March 2023. This is 31st March 2024. So, in terms of cutoff, you would want to check that anything which is related to 31st March is recorded up to 31st March. Means anything pertaining to this period should not be moved to 31st March. Anything which is pertaining to this financial year has not been moved to the next financial year. How do you do that? So maybe last 5 transactions you will pick up. In terms of purchases, you will check which period it pertains to. Similarly, first 5 transactions of this financial year you will check, and you will check which period does it pertain. That is what you do in case of cutoff. Gross profit is all about margin testing in terms of your inventory, the valuation that you do. Okay, so the cost of goods sold that you have. Try to achieve the comfort in terms of margins. Okay, because your margin is something which is an outcome of inventory only. Yes or no? Yeah. So through the gross margin, etc., you try to again get the comfort as to whether your inventory amount, that the inventory valuation which you have captured, whether that is appropriate or not. Okay.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. So I think we can pick up one more. CA Ritesh has drawn some samples during the audit of manufacturing company for testing controls as well as testing of details. Means control testing as well as substantive testing. On the basis of samples selected, he reaches an erroneous conclusion that excess controls on the applications are less effective. It's all about IT procedures. Further, on the basis of samples selected, he concludes erroneously again that work in progress inventory amounting to rupees 5 crore in the financial statements are materially misstated. Outlining the above risk involved, discuss how is it going to affect his audit of the company. Over to you. Any thoughts? Quickly. So let's look at this. Yeah. See, the described risk is what? Sampling risk. It's a risk that the auditor's conclusion based on a sample may be different from the conclusion if the entire population were subjected to same audit procedure. In the given case, auditor has arrived at erroneous conclusions on the basis of sample selected. In the case of testing of controls, he has concluded excess controls are less effective than they actually are. In the case of substantive testing, he has concluded erroneously that a material misstatement exists, which actually doesn't exist. This type of erroneous conclusion affects the, of course, efficiency, quality of the audit, as it would usually lead to additional work to establish that the initial conclusions were incorrect. Okay. Yeah. Everyone
Right,
clear?
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So any questions, any doubts if you have, I think we can discuss that. Otherwise, what we can do is we can just maybe we can just pick up one more, just a minute. Yes, so let's pick up one more. Living Well Private Limited is engaged in the manufacturing and export of floor coverings. Such products are labor intensive, do not require much of capital investment in the machinery. The company has no plans to diversify in other product lines. Its directors are also holding significant interest in another company, My Living Private Limited, engaged in manufacturing of blankets using capital intensive machinery. Okay, so I'm just hoping you have understood the scenario. During the audit of My Living Private Limited, it was noticed company has sold machinery of 1 crore to Living Well Private Limited. Okay, so now there are 2 companies. One is Living Well Private Limited. Second is My Living Private. Right? My Living Private Limited. Let me just highlight this part because this can create some sort of confusion. So during the audit of My Living Private Limited, it was noticed company has sold machinery of 1 crore to. So rupees 1 crore of machinery has been sold to Living Well Private Limited during the year. Transaction has been done at normal market rates applicable to such used machinery. So all at arm's length. Fine. How do you view the above transaction as the auditor of My Living Private Limited? So you are the auditor of My Living Private Limited. Now, in this case, I think it's very simple. Any thoughts? Over to you.
So we have to check that whether the transaction has been done at the arm length price or not.
No, it's already covered. So I think you need not check that because it's already checked. So this procedure is already performed. Yes.
Sir, your company wants to increase the revenue, so they sold to their to other company Living Well, because Living Well is not required to purchase investment in machinery because they are labor intensive. So,
Okay.
so the company My Living Private Limited has just sold to more sell. I think so, sir.
No, but let's think about it logically. Why would any other company Living Well want to help My Living? Okay, why
Sir,
would
they
a
are not
company want to help another company in terms of inflating its revenue if that is your concern? Why would anybody do that?
Sir, they are not helping, but they are getting money also. My Living is getting revenue, just sale.
No. So again, you are saying that Living Well wants My Living to inflate revenue. Okay, so who is inflating the revenue? My Living.
My Living. Yes, sir.
Correct. Who is helping My Living in doing that? Living Well.
Yes, sir.
Living Well is helping. Now
Yes,
for
sir.
this help, Living Well is purchasing a machine from My Living unnecessarily and
Yes, sir.
paying rupees 1 crore to My Living unnecessarily. Why
Yes,
would
sir.
Living Well doing that?
Sir, they are
Why would
related
Living Well
party.
do that?
Sir, they are related party.
Very good. So that's the concern. Huh? That is where we need to now focus upon. That are these related parties or not? Okay, so
Sir,
if you look at this particular para,
sir, actually, they are the
its
related parties.
directors, just a minute, its
Yeah.
directors are also holding significant interest in another company. So it seems there is a related party relationship between the two companies. Okay, only and only when two companies are related, they would want to help them in this sort of manner. Unrelated parties, would they want to help? No, they would not want to help. Yes, please go ahead. I think you wanted to explain something.
Sir, actually, it is a significantly related party because that the directors are holding significant interest in that company. There is no
Right.
doubt about it. And it is the outside the normal course of business of the entity. See,
Right.
actually, if you look at
Right.
the thing is that what is the rationale behind to selling
Right.
to the related party? See,
Right.
they are using their related party facility for that
Yes.
purpose.
Correct.
What is is there really the economic benefit the company is getting? I think it looked like that the one company is manufacturing, another company is selling. There
Correct.
may be the case for the situation like in income tax also AAA
Right.
one location to the lower price or higher price. There may
Right.
be a domestic transfer price may be applicable.
Right.
Like this, if you look at, I think the rationale behind of this particular activity is questionable.
Correct. So
I,
that's why in this case, what do? This case, you will get on to the rationale. Okay,
Yeah.
and also you would want to evaluate this related party relationship, whether it is there or not. That is how
Yes.
you will get the complete insights about this transaction. Correct?
Correct, sir. We need to analyze in depth what is the rationale behind for such a transaction between these parties.
Correct. Absolutely, yes. Okay. All right. So I think with this, we can just conclude our discussion. Any questions, any doubts that you may have, we can discuss that
Yes,
now.
sir. Clear, sir. I have one doubt, sir. Sir, इसमें
Yes.
ये पार्टी का डिस्क्लोजर भी देना पड़ेगा ना फिर?
See, related party disclosure is required to be anyways be given by the management.
Management, yes. Check करना होगा.
So if let's suppose management has already done that, it's good. You will audit that. If that is not done, then you will first of all evaluate whether these are related parties or not, and then you'll ask the management why it's not been disclosed.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Any more questions?
No, sir, it's clear, sir. Thank you so much for your in-depth
Sure.
discussion for everything. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks everyone. So I'll just pass it on to now Tanya ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. We will be coming with the quiz questions. So I will be asking few questions, very small questions. You may raise your hands, or you can ask us to unmute you so that you can answer the questions, or you can write your answers in the chat box also. So shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is the maximum recommended time limit within which assembly of engagement files should be completed after the engagement reports has been finalized?
It's about 60 days, 60 days, ma'am.
Okay. Let's write first in chat or raise your hand so that others also get chance to speak now.
Okay.
Is that the correct answer, 60 days? So
Yes,
any
ma'am.
other, any other answer apart from 60 days? No, I think 60 days is the correct answer. So what is excluded from the definition of firm? I'm going to give you 4 options. Sole practitioner, partnership, corporation, or other entity of professional accountants. Which of these is excluded from the definition of firm?
Sole proprietor.
Corporation.
Sole practitioner is not a firm?
Corporation.
Yeah, corporation. क्योंकि company है ना, corporate. It is not
Yes,
a,
ma'am.
yeah.
Yeah, the corporation is excluded. Corporation is not eligible to enter a partnership. You're right, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. X, Y, Z are joint auditors and have allocated work among themselves. Verification of trade receivable was assigned to Mr. Z. Which statement aligns with the relevant standards on auditing regarding such allocation? First of all, which standard will be applicable over here?
299.
299.
What is the name of ISA 299?
Ma'am, in Intel,
One by
joint
one. Mr.
joint
Ravi?
of statement.
Joint audit of financial statement.
Sorry?
Joint audit of financial statement.
Okay. So the option have you understood the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So option is X and Y should necessarily review work performed by Z to ascertain whether work has been actually performed in accordance with SA, or X and Y should perform tests to ascertain whether work has been actually performed in accordance with SA. X, Y are entitled to assume that Z has actually performed work in accordance with SA, or X and Y are not entitled to assume that Z shall bring to their notice significant observation relevant to responsibilities noticed during the audit.
Option C.
C, ma'am. Yes.
Assume, ma'am.
They assume that he has done. This is joint audit, no? That's it.
Okay. Any other answer? Yeah, you are right. That answer will be C. They will assume that
he has performed the work in accordance with standards on auditing. Okay. If the auditor has identified a fraud or has obtained information that indicates that a fraud may exist, the auditor shall communicate this matter within which time to the appropriate level of management in order to inform those with primary responsibility for prevention and detection of fraud. Within which time they will indicate about the fraud.
Within
At the
2
end
days,
of the
ma'am.
audit,
2 days.
on monthly
Within 2 days.
basis, on quarterly basis, on timely basis. 2 days is not in the option.
Timely basis.
Timely
Timely
basis,
basis.
reasonable time.
Yeah, within a reasonable time. Okay. So, where the auditor has doubts about the integrity or honesty of management or TCWG, the auditor may consider it appropriate to modify audit opinion, to communicate to regular authorities, to obtain legal advice, or to withdraw from the engagement.
To obtain
Yeah.
legal.
Withdraw from the engagement, madam.
Sorry?
Withdraw from the engagement.
They will withdraw from the engagement as per you.
Obtain legal advice.
Okay. Which essay?
Essay 505.
Essay? Which standard on auditing will be applicable over here?
Six
505.
501?
नहीं 5
620.
620 भी हो सकता है.
No, auditor has doubts about the integrity or honesty of management or TCWG. Auditor may consider it appropriate to what he will do: modify opinion, communicate to regular authorities, withdraw from engagement, or obtain legal advice.
मैडम फ्रॉड का केस हुआ तो 240 लग जाएगा.
Okay.
If there is a case of fraud, then the essay 240 will be applicable.
Okay. So, in this case, he will obtain legal advice, right?
Yes.
I think Mr. Ravi, I think he was the right. So it is as per essay 250. If you will go in essay 250, it is written over there that he will obtain legal advice. What is the name of essay 250?
Consideration of laws and regulation in conducting an audit.
Okay. So you all are well prepared this time. Yeah. So, okay. Adequate design and effective implementation of internal controls may lead to identification of what? Frauds and errors, design and implementation gaps in processes, abuse by process owners, or segregation of duties.
Option B.
Design and implementation gaps in processes?
Yes.
No. Adequate design and effective implementation of the internal control may not lead to, not is a keyword, may not lead to the identification of what? Fraud and errors, design and implementation gaps in process, abuse by process owners, or segregation of duties. You see, many times question comes in exams which relate to incorrect. We need to choose the incorrect one or not. So someone from you said design and implementation gap. If adequate designs are there, we can identify them if there are any gaps in the processes. So correct answer will be abuse by process owner. So I think we can continue some quiz in another class also. Chapter 5, 6, 7. We are going to conduct that. So shall we wind up with this, or you have any other query?
क्विज के लिए आप ये सेशन भी दे सकते हैं एफआर का जैसे लिया गया था ना फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स में.
Okay.
ऑनलाइन में.
Okay.
Ma'am, if you display that question in that.
Yeah, we will try to do that in next quiz.
Yeah.
Okay.
First know that we have to listen each and everything carefully. Then we have to whether A, B,
Yes,
C,
yes,
D.
yes. I
Yeah,
understand that. We
You
understand that.
mind में store
that
करना
was
होता
a
है.
difficulty to us.
Okay, sure. From next class, we will do that.
Okay, ma'am, that would be
Okay, okay.
appreciated.
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you so much. Thank you, Ajal sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can other subjects also can form this type of quiz and question answers? Then it is very beneficial for students to give before the first MTP is there, no? Before that, if you can arrange or take some time for us, no? It's very
Okay,
nice.
we will convey your suggestion to them.
Yes, ma'am. So we
We
are
can do that.
preparing for that only. That's
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, it helps you in revision also, no?
Yes, ma'am.
You
Yes,
go through
ma'am.
the chapters again.
फोकस उसी में स्टडी हो जाता है, मतलब कि फिर इसके लिए प्रिपेयर करना है तो उसी में.
Definitely, we will come at that time, but we have to inform that. Please
Okay.
inform us about that. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Session over. Thank you.